Okay, I think we're just getting a phone call here. PJ, 2 seconds. I'm just going to see who's on the line. Hello, you're through the books, boys. You've got Dean on the
Hello,
line.
it's Martin Treanor.
Oh,
How
hello,
you
Martin.
how
So
you
lovely to hear from
doing?
you.
How
And
you
just
guys?
perfectly timed as we were just chatting about your book, The Logos Prophecy. Have it
Oh,
here in
that's
front of me.
good.
Can see you got it there behind you as well.
Okay.
So
Funny you say that. I've got one in front of me too.
there we go. So you're not an imposter.
No, just in case. Just in case there's questions.
We chatted a bit about the plot there, so I'm not going to kind of bore you by repeating all that. But I want to ask you. Well, the first question I really want to ask is when's book two coming out? Actually, I should ask that later, but I need it.
Okay, well, book two is slotted. I haven't written it yet.
Right.
This is the thing. It's slotted for January 25. We decided to leave a 2 month, or sorry, 2 year gap between the books to
Okay.
let the various time points of each book settle.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah, because the book does catch up to current times, right? So we want
Yeah.
to March 2023, for example, is mentioned. So I guess that makes sense. You're gonna make me wait 2 years, which has just broken my heart. I love this. I really, really love this book. What made you want to write? I mean, because let's be honest, this tackles a lot. I mean, it says it right on the back here: 13,000 years of exploitation, 3 months to put it right. So there's a lot of material in these 300 pages. What made you undertake this? Like, how did you go about that?
This was a brainchild of a. I used to have a collaboration with Ed Greenwood, who is the creator behind Forgotten Realms, Dungeons and Dragons. He started
Right.
a publishing company, and I got kind of brought into that. And I met one of the people who were involved with it, who sadly died a couple of years ago, but he was my agent for a while, Sal Nancy in Canada. And when I was over visiting Ed, we were doing I went to Canada, we did some brainstorming for other stories. We were sitting out having coffee one morning, me and Sal, and we discovered that we had a joint fascination, not for conspiracy theories as such, but for the people who believe them.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we started saying, what if they were all real? What if it was all a big thing that was set in motion a long, long time ago, and everything from shape changing lizards being the queen to slightly not credible, but slightly more believable ones, like for example, the ancient civilization theory.
Yeah.
Um, and we went down a hole, and then we forgot about it, and then we carried on some other business, and then the tag thing kind of went to one side, and then about 2018, Sal reached out to me, said, "Do you want to write that book? As a matter of fact, do you want to write a whole universe?" So then he said, "Give me 64 pages of a treatment," which we did, encompassing from 13,000 years ago to 20,000 years in the future. And this was the first book to come out of it. This was basically the now part of it, where we discover what conspiracy theories were for.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So does that mean the next book is moving forward into the future then?
The next book's moving it back into 13,000 years ago.
Oh, right. We're going back. Okay.
You're going back. And then the third book is 20,000 years in the future.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the
So
idea is that
altogether,
it
you're
all ties nicely together.
you're covering a massive. I mean, I thought 13,000 years was enough time to cover, but that's just not enough for you. You gotta go
No.
straight into the
Well,
future.
basically, you mentioned that 13,000 years and 3 months to get it right. That's why I tried to do a fairly fast paced book
Yeah.
because, this has been going on for 13,000 years, but the time's up. That's it.
Yeah.
It's make or break
It
now.
certainly gives you because it had me a little bit anxious at times because I'm thinking like we've got the 3 months and I'm also thinking like oh we've got 100 pages left and I'm thinking what's going to happen like we gotta do we have time to kind of get to things and obviously yeah of course we do you've got to resolved but it gives you that kind of feeling of pace and that kind of you almost feel the fear of the characters like are we going to get this done on time and obviously I'm not going to go into too many like spoilers but we do have the snag with Ari who kind of becomes demotivated towards the end for one reason or another, and I'm not saying why. So then I'm thinking, oh no, we're not gonna make it, we're not gonna get it done. So I really like that, and I was as I'm reading it, I'm thinking are we, is this going to work? And then it does, and it just comes together. It just comes together perfectly, So I think it's very, very well written, and the pacing is perfect because, as I said to you before, even from the beginning, it just hits you like boom, we're off. There's no messing around.
I didn't want to. Yeah, the key thing for me when I wanted to pace the book, I tried certain things. There's certain chapters that didn't go in, and I tried certain other approaches, and I tried
Right.
to give the kind of slow build kind of idea and more puzzles and more stuff like
Mm.
that. And then I realized very quickly, like if time's running out, they and the powers that be and us on all sides will be wanting to move very quickly to
Yeah.
either succeed or put a bullet in it, and particularly, so I had this mental picture of instead of traveling around the world, they're hopping from site to site,
Mhm. It is,
trying to
and they
put
do get
right the
around
parts of
very,
it.
very quickly. But I think it paces perfectly. Um, the conspiracy theory thing, I suppose you've sort of answered it, but I really wanted to ask you how you got into that. And I suppose I was wondering, are you into any conspiracy theories yourself, or is it just perfectly an outside, looking in perspective?
It is purely an outside looking in perspective. That said, I am down the rabbit hole, and
Now you're in.
yeah, I was down there anyway, and then I went researching this book. I went further and further and further. Like the wealth of research I did on this, there's only about 1% of it in the book.
Wow. And
And
even reading it, it comes across that you've had to do a lot of research just in terms of history, geography, there's some mythology, astrology, everything's in there. There's a lot of we're seeing that you've had to do a lot of work to get it. And you're saying that even only a small portion of that
even
actually
a small
shows.
fraction, because there's everything, there's the common ones, the flat Earth theories, the lizard people theories. But whenever you branch off into certain things like ancient aliens or ancient civilizations, there's offshoot branches of that as well.
Mm.
There's like a what can you say? There's an academic argument going on within the non-academic conspiracy theory world of
Yeah.
what the true conspiracy is, and that yet again you end up going off a tangent and you're down another hole. I just love it. I'm fascinated by the people who create them. And originally I was fascinated is, do the people who do all this work and put it out there in various YouTube videos and all, do they wholeheartedly believe in this? Is this what they've dedicated their life to it? How much of themselves have they dedicated?
Yeah, that's the question you always wonder with conspiracy theories, with cults, with all that kind of stuff. Is, do the people running it buy into it, or is it purely there to fool other people and manipulate? And we don't know, I suppose.
Well, yeah, you don't know. But let's take, for example, the flat Earth one. One of my favorite ones of the flat Earth thing is like, realistically, my to quote Father Dougal and Father Ted,
Oh,
oh, come on now, you don't believe in that now, do you? It's the whole prospect of it is ludicrous. Like the guy's writing it on his phone. How does he get to the satellite signal? Is the satellite on a pole?
yeah, yeah.
So I go along those lines. But yeah, when you read about the flat earthers, like there's a guy gave his life for it. He went up in a rocket to 10,000 feet. He could have gone up in a plane and been even higher, but he went up in a rocket that he built himself to prove that the earth was flat. And yeah, he obviously
Wow.
buys that much into it. Um,
That's dedication, I suppose, of a sort. Um, I want to talk a wee bit about the characters because I don't know what you hear about them. So the two main characters, obviously Ari and Jordan. I like Jordan a lot. Maybe I empathize with him a little bit more, but he is the one that's a little bit more grounded, and he's kind of got his scientific background. I like Ari. I mean, initially I think, oh my god, she's just a loudmouth and what. But then you get to like her as you go along, and you see the way they interact together, and it's lovely, and her feelings for her friend and everything are delightful. But what was the? Did you try to make them as different as possible? Was that the intention?
I can't speak for any other writers, but whenever I start with a character, I have a fairly rough idea. It's a bit like meeting somebody on the street. You kind of form an opinion of them, kind of,
Yeah.
and then the more you get to know them, and that sometimes they surprise you more as
Mm-hmm.
time goes on. And that basically goes. I didn't really know Ari until I started writing her, and then I got to know her more. Jordan, is a bit more along the lines of people who I would know,
Yeah.
who are academic, but they're into weird stuff. But from
Yes.
an
Yes.
academic point of view, they find it fascinating, a bit like myself. So Jordan, there's a lot of me and Jordan in that, the idea not that hypnosis can cure all, but why does it do certain things? So that's how he comes along. Ari, I love to death. I had so much fun writing her. It was unbelievable because she just opened up for me in front of me as well.
Oh, she's the
And
fun one for sure.
and to Jordan initially was the plan behind Jordan was really for him to ground Ari, and it
Mm-hmm.
worked out the other way around. When he came in to ground Ari, Ari ended up drawing him out. I
Yeah.
liked it.
And it's nice to see how slowly like he'll accept some things, but he's still like, okay, but this still doesn't make sense. I don't like it, you know?
Yeah. Well, even to the even all the way through, he still won't admit to the things that he's witnessed, essentially. And
Yeah.
he's statements like, I've seen it now, I know it now, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tell me about Lena then. What's the inspiration for her? Because she crops up, I guess, around the middle, and she initially comes in, and I'm thinking, who is this badass? I mean, the first time we see her, she wants to just attack these two girls that she's just seen, I think it's in the pub. And then we don't see her for a little while until she pops back up. And obviously, she's got the contract essentially to take care of these two. But she's a very strong character in her own right. But at the same time, she's dealing with a lot of issues as well, or maybe demons even.
Yeah. Well, with somebody who does that kind of job for a living, as in murdering people, there has to be something unhinged there. There has to be
Yeah.
some troubled past. There has to be some genesis for her to be so callous, hard, and ruthless. But also with the right nudge, sorry to borrow from the book, but with the right nudge, she can make mistakes,
Yeah.
and in her line of business, it's not good. She was obviously the plan for Lena was to basically be the instrument for the Caucasus exploits into trying to stop
Yeah.
the events.
And the
So
caucus,
she
of course,
was
being the 13
the
families. Just
13
yeah.
families, yeah. And the last thing they want is to lose control. And rather than going in all guns blazing, they have a precision knife, a stiletto, if you like, that will go in, and that's Lena. And she's just an employee. So that's it. She's an
Yeah.
employee who does a contract and then walks away. But this one hasn't been achievable.
Yeah. Because of what you mentioned, the nudging, right? So you can kind of, these Gnostics have these abilities to put little ideas in your mind and little nudges, but that's part of it all. But I don't want to give too many spoilers in the details. I do want to ask you though, the last kind of thing I want to ask you is how realistic do you think this is from a perspective of, let's imagine we're 13,000 years ago and we're in this kind of almost Eden-like, paradise, global civilization, whatever it is, and the selfishness of certain people takes over and ruins it all. I mean, I feel like that's probably quite realistic. I mean, do you feel that way yourself?
Yeah, we wanted to grind it. This is all back to that original conversation. Is that when we were saying, me and Sal were saying, what if all the conspiracy theories were true, but they've all been orchestrated by humans? Like there
Yeah.
is no aliens, there is no pan-dimensional beings. This is humans who've done this as a control mechanism on the back of. So it's muddy in the waters. Let's give you politics. I'll give you politics and religion, and we'll change it a few years, and I'll give you something else, and then I'll muddy the waters up by saying things like, well, is that real and is that not real? And yes, I feel well. There's fairly good evidence that the whole Project Blue Book in the United States about UFOs was just a ploy to take eyes away from certain munitions that they were building and
Right.
stealth planes and stuff. So yes, I do believe that there has been some kind of orchestrated oligarch, if you like, control of the world. I think we're living in it now. I think the corporations were there, and we had the robber barons of the past. We had the feudal system before that.
It's easy to think this stuff as well,
13,000 years of concerted same thing.
Mm.
Probably not. but the lessons
Sure.
were there. Yeah.
It's easy to think the stuff when you see like the increasing levels of billionaires and all the kind of stuff that's going on today. The fact that the media takes us from one crisis to another, and we just work through. We've got COVID, we've got Brexit, we've got Putin in Ukraine, we've got Trump, and it's just this endless cycle of tragedy after tragedy. I've yet to turn on the news and they just say we're all good today, lads. There's always something going on. So
Well, it's the squirrel, isn't it? I think I can't remember which newspaper. It's a British newspaper, and I can't remember which one it is. But it has a section, and I think it might be an online one, where it says, "While you were distracted by this today, these are the 10 bills that were passed in the House of Commons, or
uh,
the things that are slipping under the radar.
yes.
So we're keeping. So it's yeah. Oh, squirrel! Look over there. Blah, 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 yeah, get these through, lads. And usually, yet again, as you said, it's to bolster some level of the oligarch system
Yeah.
that owns all the media and everything.
So I think, do I believe there's 13 families running it? Probably not, but do these types of things happen? Yeah, I think they do. And that's why it is realistic, and as you say, it is grounded in reality. I'm gonna let you give. Do you want to give a quick plug for your website or where people can buy the book before we let you
Oh
go?
yes, you can buy the book anyway. You can buy the book on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, the book department, basically anywhere that sells books. And my website is martintreanor.com. That's Martin, MartinTreanor.com. And you get there's a whole lot of stuff on there. There's all the interviews and stuff. And there's a couple of free reads. So, and plenty of links to the book.
Awesome. I'll
So,
probably link in the show notes anyway. And I'll ask you then before you go the final question we ask everyone, which is if there's any existing book you wish you'd been the person to write, what would it be?
Boco's Pendulum by Umberto Eco.
Okay. I haven't read any Umberto Eco, but I have one on my shelf. It's coming up in the next few months. I just haven't quite gotten around to it yet. So that'll be interesting. Give me the quick sort of 30-second synopsis of that one.
It's a guy right up my street, similar to this. It's about a guy who works in a publishing company and he does tabletop books and he's bored and he decides to essentially create a secret society only to discover that it exists and it begins hunting them.
Oh, so it already exists. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's pretty up your street. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Martin, it's been lovely having you on the show. Thank you so much for calling
Oh,
in.
thank you very much for having me on.
No problem. Have a great evening. Take care.
Cheers now. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.